Plains Native Americans. Where did they live? The Plains Native Americans lived in the middle of the United States in an area called the Great Plains. This area stretches from Texas all the way up to southern Canada, from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. It was the biggest area settled by Native Americans during this time. The Plains Indians are the most famous group of Native Americans. This region was mostly covered in flat land that had very tall grass and few trees. There were also some small hills and valleys in this region. What were some of the famous tribes from this region? The Sioux, Cheyenne, Blackfoot, Comanche, Apache, Kiowa, and Crow. How did the group get their food? They were hunters and farmers. The Plains Native Americans depended on buffalo and bison. They followed these big animals around from place to place. The natives did not have guns, so they had to be smart hunters. They tried to trick the buffalo sometimes. One trick they used was running herds of buffalo off the edge of cliffs. They also tried to trick buffalo into leaving the herd to save a fake baby buffalo. Once the buffalo was away from the others, the natives would kill it. Life changed in a good way for the Plains Native Americans when horses were introduced. Hunting became much easier because the Plains Native Americans rode horses and used spears and arrows when they hunted. They could use the buffalo for more than just food because the Plains people did not waste any part of the animals they killed. They used buffalo hides to make homes, clothes, and beds. They used animal bones to eat with, as well as for tools and weapons. The Native Americans even made glue from buffalo hooves. The Plains people were farmers too. Corn was their most important crop. It is still the most important crop in the Great Plains area today. In addition to farming, they collected nuts, berries, seeds, and roots. How did the Native Americans in this region live their everyday lives? Migrating a lot. The Western Plains Indians moved a lot to follow buffalo. They lived in teepees. Teepees look like cones or tents. They are made out of wooden sticks and animal skins. They were made in different sizes. Some big tents could hold 40 people. Teepees could be packed up fast when the natives needed to move. Teepees lasted a long time and were easy to set up. They worked well in both hot and cold weather. The women took care of the teepees while the men were busy hunting buffalo. The Eastern Plains Indians lived in earth lodges. These homes were made by covering logs with dirt. Just like the Western Plains natives, these people farmed and hunted for their food. On the right-hand side, you'll see a drawing of a teepee. What did they wear in this region? Most of the clothes the Plains Native Americans wore came from animal hides. Buffalo hides would be tanned or turned into leather. Then they were made into clothes. Women cut, stitched, and decorated the hides. Feathers, beads, and fur were added to make the clothes look fancy. Men wore shirts, leather coats, and leggings to stay warm during the winter. During battles, the Plains people wore fancy war shirts. They also used armor made out of animal bones. What did they believe? Religion was important to the Plains Native Americans. They believed that everything in life had a spirit. There was one main spirit called the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit ruled over the whole world. Some of the tribes had different names for the Great Spirit. Old Man for the Blackfoot people, and Wakantanka for the Sioux people. But all tribes believed that there was one main spirit that watched over the entire earth. The Plains Native Americans believed they could talk to these spirits in their dreams. Each tribe had a medicine man, or a spiritual leader. The medicine man was in charge of leading ceremonies. Medicine men used herbs and potions to heal people. People also went to see medicine men to get advice. How were they organized? Plains Native American tribes lived in small groups called villages. Every man in the village was a member of the village council. The village council picked one man to lead the whole village. This man was the chief. The chief worked for the village his whole life. Chiefs from every village in the tribe were part of a tribal council. The tribal council would pick one tribal chief to be the leader of the entire tribe. The village council tried to make sure that all the villages in the tribe were treated fairly. Finally, the tribal chief was part of the national council. Several tribes formed what was called a nation. For example, there are 7 large tribes that make up the Sioux Nation. Each of the chiefs of the 7 Sioux tribes was part of the national council and represented the home tribe. Fun fact: only the bravest Sioux men got the honor of wearing a grizzly bear claw necklace as a symbol of their courage.